Well, with COVID-19 vaccine rollouts now underway, questions have been raised about workplace rights. Can your employer require you to be vaccinated? Well, with more, we're joined by employment lawyer Alex Lucifero. Alex, I'm sure you're getting a lot of these questions because I know we are. So that one has been raised often, very often. Can employers actually force their employees to get the COVID-19 vaccination if they're reluctant?
It is, Patricia, a question we're getting on a very regular basis from employers and employees. Generally speaking, in the vast majority of cases, the answer is going to be no. An employer cannot force an employee to receive the COVID-19 vaccine or any other vaccine for that matter. It's simply going to be seen as too strong a power on the part of an employer to force an employee to receive a vaccine like this. It would be a violation of that employee's human rights, potentially, certainly their privacy rights, and their bodily integrity as well.
Okay.
Now, there may be some exceptions to that case. Patricia, we could talk a little bit about those.
Oh, I was going to say right now, of course, there are a lot of workplaces where there's a big mix in terms of people working in the workplace and others working at home. If you did have an employee who was reluctant to get vaccinated, would it be within an employer's rights to tell that person to stop coming into work?
Generally speaking, again, the answer would be no. An employer cannot punish an employee by forcing them to stay home and not paying them simply because they are unable to get the vaccine. There might actually be legitimate reasons for an employee to not receive, or any individual for that matter, to not receive the vaccine. Could be, medical reasons in the form of pre-existing condition, where maybe it's too risky to be vaccinated. There could be religious reasons as well why an individual chooses not to be vaccinated. And in a case like that, you cannot punish those employees by either cutting their pay or again forcing them to stay home simply because they've decided to exercise their rights and not receive the vaccine. Now, the one exception, and maybe one of potentially a few exceptions that I alluded to previously was, for example, in the healthcare sector. I think there is an argument on the part of employers where in a sector such as healthcare, employers may have the ability, and I say may, Patricia, because this is uncharted territory. There's no law on this issue, but they may actually be able to mandate a mandatory vaccination program. This is going to be an issue that's going to develop over the next several months.
Okay, just very quickly on the other side of it, what if you have an employee that doesn't want to work with a coworker who hasn't been vaccinated? Does that employee have certain rights in that case?
They do, and this is a balancing act simply because, an employer does have the obligation in the workplace to make sure that it is as healthy and as safe as possible. And so an employer does have to take steps to make sure that that is the case, that is happening. And, but that said, does it necessarily require insisting on vaccination? Not necessarily. You can protect your workplace by maintaining social distancing, cleanliness, et cetera. And so in a situation where an employee is refusing to attend work because perhaps others haven't been vaccinated, you'd have to look at the reason why that employee is refusing. Again, maybe there's a pre-existing medical condition there, and there might be some accommodation there. But again, would that necessarily require an employer to insist on vaccination in the workplace? Not necessarily.
All right, employment lawyer Alex Lucifero. It's a very interesting topic these days. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.